Hi, I'm Michaela. I'm your guide in Salzburg. Over the past centuries, Salzburg became a very interesting historic place. Many buildings remind of past times, and nowadays Salzburg is known for its beautiful historic center, for its architecture, even its music events, and some of the movies that have been filmed here. I'd like to tell you some stories, so come join me on a walk. We're about to enter the complex of Nonnberg Abbey. It is one of the oldest female convents in the German-speaking countries. Bishop Rupert founded this convent in the 8th century and appointed his niece as the first abbess. Her name was Erentrudis. Many buildings from that complex date back between the 11th and the 20th century. Emperor Henry II also donated a lot to this convent because apparently he was saved from a severe illness by Erentrudis. The opening scene from the movie Sound of Music was filmed on a pasture near the mountain Untersberg. Maria, she was dancing and twirling on a pasture, singing, "The hills are alive." And then, all of a sudden, she hears the bells ring from Nonnberg Abbey. She remembers she had to go to the convent and ran down from the mountain all the way into the city to Nonnberg Abbey in 5 minutes. If you watched The Sound of Music, maybe the gate behind me will look familiar to you. It was used for the scene when Maria finally left the convent. She came to the gate and then she started to sing, "I have confidence," and she was about to go to the Trapp family. Maria was living here as a postulant, and she also was a teacher here in the nuns' own school. When the Captain Georg von Trapp and Maria finally married, they married at Nonnberg Abbey. But in the movie Sound of Music, they used another church. It is half an hour outside of Salzburg in the town of Mondsee. The church is named St. Michael's Church. The big residence square is located right in the center of the old town of Salzburg. It is located and surrounded by beautiful buildings. On one side you can see buildings from the business district. Then just behind me the big grey building is called the Old Residence Building. Then on the other side the Salzburg Dome, the main cathedral of Salzburg, and also the new residence of Salzburg, which is nowadays the Salzburg Museum with a big history of Salzburg. The old residence building used to be the center of power for about 500 years in Salzburg. It was the place where the former rulers, the Prince Archbishops of Salzburg, lived and also made their political and economic decisions here. Nowadays it is a beautiful museum where you can visit the staterooms of the Prince Archbishops, but also see different treasures from the churches and abbeys. The most beautiful part of this square is the residence fountain right behind me. The fountain was commissioned in the 17th century by the former Prince Archbishop Guidobald, Count Thun and Hohenstein. It was made out of marble, took about 6 years to make, and was the water supply for this whole district. Sound of Music fans will recognize that fountain. Remember the scene when Maria leaves the convent. She is happy and sings, "I have confidence." She skips across the square towards the fountain, and then she even splashes water towards the horses. Afterwards, she takes a bus to the Trapp family house. Schloss Frohnburg was a 17th century summer palace, and it is located at the Hellbrunn alleyway. It is used nowadays by the University Mozarteum for students who love to study music in Salzburg. This building was used as Villa Trapp in the movie. Maria, she was coming along the tree-lined alleyway, skipping and hopping, singing, "I have confidence." And she came to the gate, she opened the gate, she ran around the courtyard, and then she rang the bell at the front door. Prince Archbishop Leopold Anton Freiherr von Firmian built a beautiful palace, Schloss Leopoldskron. After his death, his heart was even buried in the chapel of Schloss Leopoldskron. The palace changed many ownerships over the years, and in 1918, finally, a very famous theater director named Max Reinhardt purchased Schloss Leopoldskron and used it as his family residence. Since 1965, Schloss Leopoldskron has become well known beyond the Austrian borders as a shooting place for the movie Sound of Music. If you remember, many of the garden scenes were filmed here in the beautiful park next to the palace. The Lake Leopoldskron was used for another famous scene in the movie when Maria and the kids were on the boat ride. The boat was driving along the lake towards the palace Leopoldskron, and the captain was waiting there for them, pretty upset. Maria and the kids stood up and started waving. The boat started shaking, and all of a sudden everybody just capsized into the water. Brrr, it must have been really cold. Imagine a man who was simultaneously a prince and an archbishop, a man of power with a wealth of gold and salt. His name, Marcus Sitticus, and his vision to create a pleasure palace for everyone that has never previously existed. And here it is, Schloss Hellbrunn, beautifully designed by the Italian architect Santino Solari. The idea came from the Italian villa suburbana. You can wander through the garden of this palace Hellbrunn to see unique trees, beautiful flower beds or fish ponds. There is light and dark, there is fire and water, or lively and quiet. These are all contrasts that you can find in the park, and they will surprise you, just like the former visitors. In the beautiful park of the Palace Hellbrunn, you can find the gazebo. The gazebo was built by 20th Century Fox for the movie Sound of Music, and they used it for the 2 love scenes. Remember when Ralph and Liesl were meeting in the park? It was dark, it was raining, so they walked into the gazebo and started dancing and singing the song I'm 16 going on 17. The second love scene was with the captain and Maria. They met in the park as well after the captain has cancelled the engagement with the baroness. And then they came to the door, falling in love and singing the song, "In my youth I must have done something good." Schloss Mirabell and the garden exist since 1606 and have been used as a summer residence of the former Prince Archbishops of Salzburg. Flower beds are shaped geometrically, and even the trees show characteristics of the Baroque style. The visual orientation of the garden goes towards the Salzburg Dome and also the fortress that you can see. And that's why the name Mirabell is perfect, because Mirabell actually translates to nice view. Behind me you can see the Pegasus fountain with the Pegasus in the middle. It is made out of bronze and was designed by Caspar Graas from Innsbruck. And the fountain has been placed here in this garden since 1913. In the movie Sound of Music, this was also a very important location. Remember, the children and Maria were dancing around the fountain here and also singing parts of the song Do Re Mi. The square is named here after Herbert von Karajan. He became one of the most important conductors of the 20th century and was born here in 1908 in Salzburg. And right at this square you can find also a big monument called the Horse Wash. The Horse Wash was used in former days to clean the parade horses from the Prince Archbishops. The pond or the Horse Wash is located right below the Nonnberg mountain and next to the Salzburg Festival Hall. Look carefully for this scene in the movie Sound of Music. It is a very short section, but the horse pond was a film location. When Maria takes a walk with the Trapp children through Salzburg, she just passes this pond and looks at the monument. Max Reinhardt was one of the founders of the Salzburg Festival event. The first performance happened in 1920, and over the last 100 years it developed into one of the most important musical events in Salzburg. For 6 weeks the best musicians perform here in the Salzburg Festival Hall. The Trapp family were a singing family, so they actually performed here already in 1935 and won a competition, just like in the movie Sound of Music. And so they started from here their career in Europe before they actually moved to the United States in 1938. Attention to the Sound of Music fans, because the summer riding school was in the movie Sound of Music. I'm sure you remember the 96 arcades where the soldiers were standing and the captain Georg von Trapp walked on stage and he was singing the song Edelweiss, and then he was also singing the farewell song with the whole family. The St. Peter's Cemetery is a unique cemetery in the old town of Salzburg next to the St. Peter's Church and to the Monk Mountain. It has beautiful wrought iron crosses, it has beautiful flower arrangements, and you can also find graves from famous people like the sister of Amadeus Mozart, Nannal, is buried here, and also an American general, Harry J. Collins. The St. Peter's Cemetery was the inspiration for one scene in the movie Sound of Music. The von Trapp family were hiding there, and the nuns brought them into the cemetery, and then they were hiding behind tombstones. The nun was locking the gates with a key, and then the German soldiers were trying to find them with a flashlight. So the design for this scene was taken from this cemetery, but it was actually filmed in Hollywood. When the Trapp family left Salzburg from the Nazi oppression, they climbed over the mountain right into Switzerland, the mountain Untersberg. But sorry to say, Switzerland is too far away. This mountain Untersberg borders to Germany, and the Trapp family would have ended up right in the former headquarters of Adolf Hitler. And in real life, the Trapp family never climbed the mountain. They actually took the train from Salzburg to Italy and eventually ended up in the United States. Thank you for joining this tour, and stay tuned for our next one. So long, farewell, and see you in Salzburg.